Good morning, everyone. Good morning, and welcome to the virtual community back to school Young Ladies Conference for My Sisters Keepers. And the title today is Great Expectations for the Academic Year that we're currently in, 2023. I'm Jane McEwen. I am your moderator. And I am a little bit about myself. I'm retired from Montgomery County Mentoring Collaborative under St. Clair Community College. And I am enjoying all of that, but I really am not retired from serving. I'm consulting and doing some work in the community and still busy. Making room and being true to my passion with youth as a mother, as a wife, as all of those things. I'm still a student and many other accolades that I could talk about, but more than anything, my passion for young people. I am super excited to introduce our panel. And let me start by saying to you that you can share your information in the chat. You can share as we want this to feel like just sitting around, having a cup of coffee, and just sipping and talking and having that small talk. Okay. We can call it girl talk. All right. So that's how it should feel for you. And we're going to just make it feel like conversations. And these conversations will be led by some awesome women in our community. And I'd like to introduce them to you. I'd like to begin by introducing Kimberly Jones. And Kimberly Jones, and if we could put her title up, we could add that. Okay. Well, Kimberly, I am going to allow you to say and introduce yourself. Give us a little bit of background about you. And we know that you're important because you're here. And can you tell us about you, Kimberly, and welcome?
Good morning, everyone. My name is Kimberly Jones, and I proudly serve as the Director of Strategic Partnerships and External Affairs here at Central State University. I am originally from Detroit, Michigan, and I got to Ohio because of Central State. Back in the late 80s, I matriculated from Detroit to Central, and I graduated, and I had a career in education where I was a K 12 teacher, administrator, consultant, and now I am trying my hand here at higher ed. I have enjoyed my time here at Central State so far, and I'm looking forward to many, many years to come. And just like you, Jade, I have a passion for young people, so I am so glad to be here today.
Awesome. And we're glad to have you. Thank you for that introduction. And next, we're going to have Mama O, Omope Carter Daboiku. I think I chopped that up, but I'm just going to say Mama O. Okay. I think we all know her as that. And her mic, you're muted. You're muted, Mama O. Can you unmute your?
Yes, I was. I am no more.
Can you give us a little bit about yourself and your background? And we're so awesome to have you as we are the introduction that we shared with Miss Jones. Can you tell us about you?
Yeah, the profile tells people about the storytelling and myself as a writer, but I don't tell very many people here in Dayton. I come from North Central Appalachia. I grew up in southern Ohio, where the state touches West Virginia and Kentucky. Both my families moved from southern Appalachia into northern Appalachia. And one of the things they kept alive is their earth wisdom and understanding about the relationship between people, plants, and animals on this planet. So I have always grown food. And currently, it is my pleasure to be an incubator farm manager slash mentor at Edgemont Solar Garden on behalf of Central State Extension. So I found that calling during the quarantine when I asked what had I not yet done, just in case if I was going to die, I could make a bucket list real quick. And the word I got was that I had not given myself to community to pass on my knowledge about agriculture. So as I am in in the sunset waning part of my lifespan, I am a futurist, and I know how important it is to transfer information to the next generation. And that's what I'm in the process of doing, because if we don't eat, we can't live. If we don't live, we can't meet our destinies. And I know that some of the people out there listening were born for great things, and it's our job to nurture their growth and development.
I love that. I love that. And I love that if you don't eat and living off of the land is, they say what is old is becoming new. What an awesome thing. And you're also a storyteller, right?
I am. And one of the stories I love to tell is how the Europeans who didn't know how to do much of anything went to Africa and stole the people they'd been trading with because they were experts at animal husbandry, growing food. They fed millions of people. And we knew how to smelt iron. We knew how to breed and ride horses. And we brought all those talents with us. So it's important for our children to understand, and their parents to understand, that our history does not start with enslavement, and that we were stolen because we were brilliant, not because we were too stupid to resist. We can change that narrative and write a different story, the one that honors us and our abilities and our skill set.
Wow. We're going to have a good time. Thank you, Ms. O. Mama O, I'm calling her. And next we have Marina S. Stokes, and she's going to introduce herself.
Yes, hello everyone. She said, my name is Marina. I grew up in Dayton, Ohio. I was a part of engineering programs from high school on up. I joined a program called Right Step at Wright State University that gave me a full ride to Wright State in the engineering program, where I became an industrial engineer. And then I became an intern at Wright Pat Air Force Base when I was 19 years old. And I have worked at Wright Pat Air Force Base in the engineering department since I was 19 years old. And I'm now a management engineer in that department. And I work studies that impact military grades across the United States of America. So I had a passion for getting minority women in the engineering STEM environment and having an influence and removing the stigma that math is hard and making it fun. So that's a passion for mine. And I'm also an entrepreneur. I own Be the Light, where it is a women's empowerment service organization helping women learn coping mechanisms that are healthy to deal with hard things, to deal with systematic oppression, using things like candles and incense and herbs to benefit anxiety and depression and learn how to utilize our emotions in a positive way. So that's who I am and what I represent.
Thank you so much. That is awesome. Wow, you have a lot on your. This is great. These ladies don't have time to just sit around and just twiddle their fingers or sit on their hands, right? I love this. And then we have also joining us finally as Alondra Anderson. Alondra, tell us about you and welcome.
Thank you and good morning, everyone. Yes, my name is Alondra Anderson. I am a licensed clinical professional counselor. I have been working in the mental health field for the last 10 plus years, and I've worked with everything from maternity, childbirth, infant, early childhood, juvenile justice, mental health, teens through adulthood. So I have worked through the lifespan of mental health. My passion really is to help people find their way through their current circumstances without losing their mind. I love helping individuals. I am the co-founder of Abstract Touch, which is a mental health support company. We do everything from life skills to psychotherapy to life coaching. And I am excited to be able to pour into anyone that comes across my path. So I'm very grateful for this opportunity. And thank you.
Thank you. Thank all of you, ladies. Wow. So, the power is in your mouth, ladies. You have to speak up, and that's why we're here. And it is our opportunity to connect. It is an opportunity for us to share. We know that right now, if you didn't know, now you're going to know that our country, our world is experiencing one of the highest rates of, I heard, I want to say her name right, Alondra, Miss Anderson, talk about, she's in the field of mental health, but it's loneliness. We're in a stage of loneliness coming out of where we just came out of something we never experienced as a world before. And the ability to connect, the power of connection is huge right now. I'd like to ask, and starting off in our conversation, I'm going to say to the listeners, give me one word that is explaining, one word to say how you're feeling right now. Just one word in the chat. And while you do that, I'm going to ask the panelists that question pertaining to mental health. How do we combat mental illness stigma in the African American community? And I know we can all relate to, it's just something, even though we've made some great, Ms. Anderson can speak to that we've made some strides. We've grown tremendously in the area of advancement in mental health in terms of, and even behavioral health, how we address that. However, we're not where we need to be. So, how do we combat the mental illness stigma in our Black community? How do we make that open and comfortable, and acceptable, not shaming, as what we say. Our ladies, our young ladies, when we have depression or stress or anxiety, I'd like Miss Anderson to speak to that. What are some things that we can do as women, leaders, parents?
Yeah.
Speak to us on that.
Absolutely. I love this question. I'm, like you said, I'm very grateful for the growth that especially the African American community has started when it comes to identifying mental illness, not shaming it, not saying, oh, that's the family member that just stays in the back room that no one talks to, but we're actually starting to talk about it. And that really is the biggest and easiest way for us to start to break this mental illness stigma, is to just talk openly about mental health. We talk about everything else. We talk about foot pain, gallbladder surgery, needing glasses, hearing aids. We talk about everything else. And mental health is a part of our physical health. So the way that we can really start to break that mental illness stigma is to just talk about mental health. We are no longer going to separate our brain and our emotions from the rest of our body. It is a part of who we are. It is a part of our lived experience, and it is okay to talk about it. The more that we as women educate ourselves, then we can start to speak up about some of those misperceptions. When you hear someone saying something that now you know is not true, you can say something and you can speak matter-of-factly about it and confidently, as we as African American women typically can do. Mm-hmm. But because we've done some research and studying and understanding of our own, we can say something. Like normalize saying, oh girl, I can't go, I got therapy that day. That's okay to say. Start to say it and make it feel a natural part of our conversations, and we will continue to break that stigma.
I like that. How about how do you feel about, ladies, and anyone want to add to that? And I even thought about, we need to have a self-care day. That started to becoming something of the norm with our employers, giving us that day. And if they don't give it to you, take it.
Absolutely.
There you go. Go ahead and speak to that, Mama O. You're muted.
I'm going to learn how to look at the button first rather than opening my mouth first. I apologize for having to be muted, but I've got this travel cough that I'm trying not to let everybody hear.
That's okay.
But, sometimes people say, oh, you always coming out of an old people frame. Yeah, because I'm an old people. And because of that, I can see backwards a lot better sometimes than I can see forward. And I know for a fact in my own experience that it was the concept of the church that told people that all you had to do is pray and seek solace with God. And then we also got to the place where we didn't want certain kinds of people to come to service because they were disruptive.
Mm-hmm.
And we got to the place where we told our children, you don't discuss family business outside the family. And we are going to have to untie that Gordian knot. And it might have to happen as a ministry within the church structure, because so many of us still depend on that frame for our own personal psychology and the process in which we're going to move through the world. So I think that we could, yes, starting with the individual, because my children go to therapy, they think I should too, and they don't have no problem telling me about what they do and what they think I ought to do. Yeah. But I know for a fact that some of the resistance that I have is because of the way I was trained to solve your problems by yourself. Don't tell family business in the street. Tell it to Jesus while you're on your knees, and eventually you will transcend this life and won't have to worry about that no more. So we need a different paradigm in the church where the majority of urban Black people who are experiencing the most stress still go for stress relief.
Yeah. I love that, Mama O. One of the things I love to tell individuals when I do speak in churches is that Jesus was described as a wonderful counselor. And the Bible tells you to seek wise counsel. Amen. I absolutely believe that being a therapist is my life's purpose. This is my gift. So we can have Jesus and therapy, just like you can have Jesus and a podiatrist.
And it's called treatment. You know, when we think of the word treatment, and I see you, I'm going to definitely let have Kimberly come in. But when you think of treatment, it's not one thing, you know, mentally, spiritually, and physically. Well, that's also a team of things. That's treatment with getting your meds, treatment with getting counseling, treatment with getting exercise, treatment with eating right. It's treatment. It's a prescription of a variety of things to give you that balance. I like that. Mm-hmm. Yes, go ahead. I saw a hand go up, and I would definitely want to hear from Kimberly, Miss Kimberly.
I agree 100% with both ladies today. One of the things that we talk about a lot here on campus, or I know I talk about, is knowing yourself and understanding what your triggers are. So, for example, with students, if you know that you are triggered by having too many things weighed down on you, I talk to them all the time about, don't let your work pile up on you so it's so stressful, and then you just get all out of pocket. So, you know, you got to know what your triggers are. Like they said, you know, seek wise counsel. We have a counseling department here on campus, and I tell all my students, everyone, males, females, athletes, hey, you need to go over there and just sit down and sometimes have someone to talk to. And the other thing I wanted to mention also is protecting your temple. Mama O talked about the food, making sure that we are not putting things inside of our temple, our body, that it's going to be harmful to us, making sure that we are preventative on what we listen to, who we are around. You know, if certain people are not good for you, you just have to learn how to move yourself away from that group and, you know, focus without being so dependent on those people, and learning how to take care of yourself. But the foods we eat, a lot of times, you know, focus us in a way that we don't want to be. But protecting your temple and knowing your triggers are very important.
What's an example when you say triggers? And I like to just keep it, I'm not going to ever assume. And the recipe for assumption, I won't say that because I'm being really nice when you assume. But give us an example of triggers.
So again, I said about if you know that you are the type of person that too many things, if you have a lot of things on your plate and it weighs you down, that's a trigger for you. You get depressed, you feel just heavy burden. So with the classwork, I tell the students all the time, make sure that you're not letting your classwork pile up on you to the point where you're so stressed out, you just shut down. So, and a lot of times when we talk to students, they'll say, I had this due, I had that due, I had this due. But then when we talk them through it, you could have did like 3 of these assignments, you could have done them at different times. And so instead of waiting to right before they were due, just not piling all of those things, getting involved with too many things in high school or in college. I have 3 children of my own, and I was very clear with them that, even though you did these things elementary and middle school, in high school, you're going to choose no more than 2 sports. One in the fall, one in the spring. You cannot be doing multiple things because I am not going to be running around to all these places.
Yes.
So, but it helped them because education is the number one thing. You are a scholar athlete, so scholar comes first. And so if you're doing so many things, you're going to take away from that scholarship. But again, knowing what is a heavy burden or what triggers you to get you, out of pocket, we say, or get you in a position where you're upset, knowing who those, being around certain people,
Yes.
that's very important.
That's
If
good.
I might hop in here, because I too have two children,
Yes.
and both of them had bumps in their college careers. One, I had to tell, get on the train, get off the track, get on the train. Everybody's going to commencement. It don't matter if you're riding first, second, or third class. Your GPA is not going to be on your certificate. Get off the track and get on the train.
Yes.
I have a situation where one of my children wound up, had to understand they needed more assistance because instead of going to the tutoring lab and having somebody assist them solve the mathematical equation that they could not solve, instead they got frustrated and angry with themselves and hit their head on their metal dorm door, which proceeded to give them a massive headache that didn't go away and may have given them a concussion.
Yeah.
And after that, it was like, look, baby, mommy can't help you with the demand that you are putting on yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You need to talk to somebody besides me
Yeah.
because you're holding yourself to a standard
Mm-hmm.
that's killing you.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not expecting you to be perfect.
Yeah.
You're expecting yourself to be perfect. And ratcheting down your expectations of yourself is not going to make anybody think any less of you. But we don't want you to be the valedictorian and then we had to have the funeral the next day.
Okay.
That's not going to work for us. And so I had to take some things and remind them that people in them slave ships wasn't in there because they wanted to be.
Yeah.
And they had to deal with the circumstances that the circumstances were. And so through some counseling and some hard loving, my child was able to understand that couldn't compare their sister to themselves. That was inappropriate. Couldn't hold their mama accountable for decisions that they made themselves. That was inappropriate.
Mm-hmm.
And just like somebody else had to teach me how to drive because my mother couldn't do that, even though she thought she could, I wasn't angry that they sought additional support.
And I like that, what you're saying, Mama O, and I'd love to hear from Marina on the ability to connect, and what I hear you ladies saying, the power of connectivity. And so when I have that meltdown, or when I have that challenge, or when I have that trigger, sometimes having the ability to connect with someone. I'm big on mentorship. That's my whole career. I specialize in that. But some formal or informal mentoring is happening, and it's really happening at our HBCUs, and they don't know they're doing it. It's called integrated mentoring. That's where everyone is involved in mentoring from the minute that young person leaves the house from their parent, and they're in school or high school or college, but also everyone in the college at HBCUs cares about their success. If they see that young people acting out on the grounds, they'll say, you know your mama or your parents wouldn't be happy with that. And they're doing it because they're not getting paid extra, but because they care. It's a culture. And so when we think about mentorship, and I'd like to ask Marina, who helped you? What helped you get through? Speak to these young ladies about not being afraid or ashamed to share or having that connection with someone. We know our first mentors, as all of the ladies are saying, we're talking about parenting is a ministry. Kimberly shared it. Mama O shared it. Alondra shared the ability to connect in that area. But what helped you? I'd like to ask Marina, what was your go-to?
Honestly, it started in high school. I was a part of a program called Delteens, which is the teenage version of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. And it created a community for me with people that were my age and mentors that were probably recent graduates. So they understood what I was going through and can kind of lead me to what was next. And those mentors also had mentors that were older than them. So it was kind of a sisterhood of different age groups that we can lean on each other and learn from each other. So when I gravitated towards college, I already had some type of mentorship from my high school career with people that just graduated from college. So it kind of pushed me to want to become a part of that sorority, which pushed me to want to be a part of other organizations and building a network, and different things like National Society of Black Engineers, being in all kinds of different organizations. It just broadened my horizon, made me more well-rounded to kind of learn that there's more than what I know back home, in my family network. I think for people my age, we can become victim mentality and think, well, this happened to me, my mom did this, my dad did that, and I don't appreciate what I had to go through to get here, and we get stuck. But when you start to realize you're not the only one that has negative circumstances and that other people push past those circumstances, and you see the success stories and those mentors, it helps you see there's another way to go about things. And yes, your feelings are valid, that it's hard and it's not fair, but you can't stop there because you don't want to stay in that situation. You want to actually graduate to a lifestyle that you've never seen before, and that can be hard if you've never seen it in your own family, with your own friend circle. You kind of have to step out of that comfort zone and join organizations and networks that show you that people that look like us are successful, and if they can do it, we can do it too. So it is very uncomfortable. I'm a naturally introverted person, and I did not want to be in those organizations when I was younger. And my first year, my friends nominated me to be the president, and that kind of catapulted into me becoming more of a leader. So it's just when you take that first step, you never know where it'll put you, and it kind of opened up the door for the rest of my life and a lot of opportunities that I never thought I would be a part of. So I would say join as many different things that you can, but have some common sense about what you can personally handle, because I was one of those people that overexerted myself and I was drained, and I felt like I had to prove to my family, I'm a success story. I'm the first one. I made it. Look what I did, Dad. Yeah. And I was exhausted and I didn't like it and I was unhappy with myself and I became depressed. Yeah. And I had to find that balance of, what are you doing for Marina versus what are you doing for the world? Who are you trying to prove, and what does success look like to you? And success became less of a credentials and more of an internal peace. So you got to find that balance of success on paper and financial stability and mental and physical health. So
that's good. That's good. I heard the quote that says, if you're not careful, you can lose your identity seeking popularity. And sometimes our young people are getting caught up in a lot of that we need to look and act and be a part of certain ways or groups or things for identity. I'd like to ask, based on that, identity, do you think that our young people are in a conflict with identity? What are the three things that I would like to say that helps them? How would you define a well-rounded student? What are what are the things that make a well-rounded student? Being present. I love how each of you have shared examples of your challenges and that young people will go through, and even with our children and navigating them through it. But what's a well-rounded student? I say it like this, and I'm going to let each of you speak. I heard Mama O mention our ancestors. I say to young people all the time, if you're here, it's because someone had the ability inside of them. They had it's in your DNA to make it. Because you're here. They didn't jump off the ship and cut off the existence of who they are. And because they are, you are. Because they were, you are. So your DNA in you has that resilience. We got to get it out of you. Mentorship, treatment, counseling, but it's in you because you're here, because they were. And so how do we think about, can you share, each of you, define what you think the 3 success factors are for students today? What are those? What do you think they're looking for? What are their 3 challenges that really define that successful or students are seeking after to become successful?
I would say, first, be honest with yourself. If you're honest with yourself, you kind of can't let anybody shake who you are. If you know I have these weaknesses, nobody can harm you when you know your weaknesses. They can't tell you you're lazy or you're a procrastinator and be offended because you know that about yourself. So now that you know that about yourself, you need to work around that and say, I'm naturally a lazier person or I'm a procrastinator, so I need to plan things out, which will go to my second point of time management. You really need to figure out, what is my schedule? What is my routine? I live by a planner. That's what works for me. Some people, they use their phone. I need my planner. If it's not in my planner, I'm going to forget. So I need to use my planner. And I would also say, have fun. A lot of people don't tell young people to have fun. They tell them focus on school, stay away from boys, no, have fun, because you will burn yourself out. If you don't know how to have fun and take care of work, you will probably overindulge in fun and then everything will lose its track. So I would say have fun and enjoy life and find that balance, because everything needs a balance. So those are my 3 points to be successful.
I love that. Work hard, play hard.
Yes.
I love that. Who wants to chime in on that? What do you think? And let's just think back. I love how, it wasn't that long ago that we were students, okay? And I'm looking at it, I know it wasn't for me. So what worked for you? What were your 3 success goals, challenges?
I'll go next. I thought about this because I was like, well, what's the recipe? But I think number 1, students have to get to a point where they're not afraid to fail, and looking at failing as failing forward, because you need to fail sometime to get through the process. That's part of the journey. That's part of the process. So not being afraid to fail. Being able to take those risks and moving out of your comfort zone. I know when I was at college, there were a lot of things that, like some of my friends, they talked me into, but looking back, it was the best thing for me. And I'm so glad that they saw it in me before I saw it in myself. So just like Marina was talking about those leadership roles, I was agreeing, amening over here, because that same thing happened to me. So I thought, like, wow, I'm glad my friends were able to see that. And then the third thing, be able to give yourself grace, not expecting everything to come out correctly. You're not going to always hit 100. I was one of those people that, always tried to get good grades. I was the first one that went to college in my family. So I just always made it in my head, think that everybody expected me to always do right. And, but you have to allow yourself grace, because when you move out of your comfort zone, that means that you're doing things that you've never done before. So you have to give yourself that grace to learn, to adapt and to make it your own. So again, not being afraid to fail forward, moving out of your comfort zone and taking risks, and giving yourself grace. Those would be my three.
I like that. I like that, giving yourself grace. That's powerful. And I love the leadership. You know, a lot of I really believe, and I'm a firm believer, that we go through these leadership trainings when we become in position in our careers, I'll say. But in my opinion, I'm not against those. I'm not throwing any shade or water or anything on it. What I am saying is leadership should begin earlier than that. And I really feel like these are great opportunities, like Marina said, and you know, it was shared by both of you ladies, that you began in your early high school, college days. That's great training grounds. I was thrown in a lot earlier than that. Some of us as women were placed in leadership roles. Some of us, if you think about, I have to be at the bus stop to wait on my sister. That's leadership. I have to make sure and watch my little siblings until mom gets home. That's leadership. You know, some of us are placed in those roles without choice, but it's leadership. You know, and so how do we a lot of our young ladies are strong women because they've been practicing it and they don't know it. And so, but on the other hand, some aren't. And some are introverts, extroverts, and all of those things. I'm an ambivert. I'm both of them. So I think it's important for us to know that and to share that and recognize that, or be open to having that mentorship point that out in us. I love that. Anyone else want to share those success?
I'm going to do what elders are supposed to do and acquiesce to the youngest person and speak last.
Yes, ma'am. So my three would be self-awareness. I think it's really important for you to learn who you are, especially in college. Like, that's a great opportunity. You're a little bit away from the wing that you've been under in your childhood and through high school. And this is your opportunity to start to explore and discover who you are. But don't let that limit you. Do the things that are difficult, right? Difficulty does not equal danger.
Yes.
So do the things that are difficult, because that's where you actually discover more of who you are. So I would say self-awareness. The second thing, I agree with Marina, good time management skills will definitely make you a successful student. And in that time management, like she said, also make time for fun. It's not just your studies. Teachers are not going to remind you when your tests are, when your papers are due, when the final exam is, when they give you that syllabus on the first day of class. That's it. So good time management is important. If you know you have a test on Friday, maybe don't go to the party on Thursday. Or if you know you're going to the party on Thursday, then you need to study Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, right? So have the good time management skills. And then my third thing would be assertiveness. Find your voice. If you grew up in a family where you didn't really get to say much, find your voice. Assertiveness is necessary. If you have questions, ask them. If something doesn't make sense, ask another question. If something happened that was wrong, say something about it. Your assertiveness is necessary for your success.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Thank you. That's good. That's really good. We're making a nice soup here, ladies.
Yes, we are. And that's the reason why I was sitting here listening going, you speak last, because I'm going, well, they said that already. They said that already. And I'm amazed at how in concert we are with our answers. And I want the people listening to understand that we did not get together and decide how we would respond.
Yeah.
So the repetition of these things is indicative of their value. There are a couple of things that I'd like to group together. You know, we talk about our heart, our heads, and our hands. My mama said, if you lead your life with your passion that you think you were brought to the planet to do, then you'll always be able to recognize when it's time to pivot. And that's the prayer, recognizing when it's time to pivot and asking for sight to see the new opportunity that's behind the door so you can choose the right one. Think about your head as a repository for knowledge, for what you learn, no one can take away from you. But don't get your degree for a job, because we've seen that they can rearrange employment really quickly. And so you always must have something in your hands, some skill set that you have nurtured for yourself, because that is something no one can take from you. Keep your dream alive like a burning ember. And, if you've read Mufaro's Beautiful Daughters, you understand you got to use your talent to keep your ember alive and aflame. You can't carry it in a box and think, when I get there at the end of graduation, I'm going to pull it out and then I'm going to be able to do. No, you have to know what that is you're carrying and use the opportunities while you're in school to blow on it so that you can have fire at the end. So like Marina said, when she got opportunities, she took them. If you're going to be in a fraternity, an interest group, a sorority, and there's opportunities for leadership, take it. Just don't go for the joyride, because then you're not building capacity for yourself. But don't take on so much responsibility that you can't get your first priority done, which is to get this education that you've set on your path. And what our dear friend from Central said, and what is it? I wrote her name down, Dr. Jones, Kimberly Jones said, failure is not the end of life.
Yes.
Failure is an opportunity for refinement, because we don't know how we can better ourselves unless we have some place where we miss the mark we set for ourselves. And life is a series of constant refinements to get to that last stage. So we have to be patient with ourselves, protect our own psyche from those invaders who would like to suck up our light, keep our eyes on the prize and our hands on the plow till we get to the end of the road. And at the end, when you see your crop, not only can you shout, you can feed a whole bunch of people because you did your work and you stayed on the trail. So
yeah, that's good. That is good, ladies. Thank you for that good soup, boy. Well, as we think about financial, I'm thinking about the first thing that happens to me, I'm thinking about generational wealth. And wow, that I don't think we have enough time to even talk about all of that. But I do want us to touch on it, because it seems like scalpers and all kinds of people are after our young people in their vulnerable stage to try and get them to get those credit cards and run up and beg for what you need while spending what you want. You're really mesmerized by this certain lifestyle that you must adhere to, and it gets us into this identity crisis, which leads us into debt, which just leads us more into that poverty. Well, what are some steps that our students can take to start building habits for a strong financial portfolio? And I say portfolio because I had to explain that to someone. A portfolio is different from a resume. A portfolio, your resume is in that, but there are a variety of things in that basket that you want to have, and you want to keep adding them to the basket. So retirement is not just a 401k. It's not just Social Security. It's not just life insurance. It's real estate. It's your business. It's that family inheritance. So how do we start? I touched on it a little bit, but how can they start now thinking about wealth?
I have two suggestions. One would be utilizing the resources that you already enjoy, like TikTok. I know is really popular for my teenager. She's always on social media, always on TikTok. And they have a plethora of information if you use it wisely. And social media doesn't have to be a negative thing. YouTube doesn't have to be a negative thing. So if you take 5 minutes a day, even just to research, retirement, savings, checkings, credit cards, you'll learn a plethora of information over time. Don't get overwhelmed with, I don't know anything and I'm not going to try. Just do a little bit at a time on TikTok, something you already utilize, and you'll be surprised how much you learn. My second point would be being transparent. I'm an engineer, but I really have a passion for math and wanting to teach math to urban city kids. But I had to prioritize my own life and think, teachers don't make a lot of money, and I wanted a certain lifestyle for my own family. So I thought, what if I did engineering to set my family up for success and then let my career pay for my passion and find ways to volunteer and teach math and utilize the skills that I'm getting from my engineering degree to do what I'm passionate about. And I think sometimes you got to find that balance to see, don't do a job that you don't enjoy. I do enjoy what I do, but find a way you can merge. How can I set my family up in a different bracket financially, but also do what I enjoy? You can't have the best of both, and you just kind of have to figure out your skill set and your passions and merge them together. And then you can kind of put your family in a different salary income than you would if you just settled for your passion. A lot of kids want to do things and they're like, well, I don't want that because it doesn't make me happy. I'll quit a job. And sometimes you have to sacrifice a little bit or try a little harder to get to a situation where you can fund what makes you happy. So those would be my 2 points.
Good advice. Fund what makes you happy. That's good. How can we add more to that on financial advice and wealth and starting pumping the brakes and not going after credit card debt? I remember someone saying to me, get one credit card, but make sure you pay the balance off every 30 days before the bill comes. Because you need to get no credit is just as bad as bad credit. So how can we add to that to tell our young people to be smart and wise about this?
So I would say learn the difference between what you need and what you want. We live in a very overly stimulated society, and that's always throwing things at us. And this is not because making social media bad, but this is how they make their money. So they're throwing things at us. I know even myself, I had to catch myself during COVID. I was bored. So I'm on Amazon ordering things and stuff would just show up at my house. I forgot I ordered, so that was not a need. That was a want. I was just doing that. And you have to learn the difference, because if you're always fixated on things that your eyes see, that is not, you're going to be broke. You're going to be broke. And the second thing I would say, learn how to save. Learning how to save is going to help you when, instead of, and it's nothing bad about this, you can rent for a time, but if you learn how to save, you can buy that house, which is going to put you in a different tax bracket. Learning how to save, instead of always going to buy the brand names of clothing, you learn how to save your money, and you can just go buy things from different ways. Like you can go buy different resale shops and different things, but you can still have nice stuff. But you have to be a saver. And I'm not saying to just keep your money and put it in your mattress or anything, but you have to be able to save. One thing I remember, Mama always talking about the church. I remember my pastor, when I came to Columbus, he said, you should be able to put your hands on $500 in case of emergency. And so if you have to be able to save to do that. So if you have an emergency, you can put your hands on that money and you don't have to use the credit card. And then you get caught up in that cycle of not being able to pay it off. But my 2 things again would be learning how to save, and then learning the difference between your needs and your wants.
That's awesome. I love the needs and your wants. They're so different, because we it can look like you really need it if you work on that focus of, oh, I love it so much, I need it. But is it really a need or a want? That's good. That's really good. I love that. And saving. Mama O, I hear you. We see you.
You don't hear me.
Okay.
I'd like to speak before Alondra, because I want Alondra to follow up the statement that I'm going to make.
Yes, ma'am.
Number one, pay yourself first does not mean go shopping before you pay your bills. If you can tithe to the church, you can tithe to your own savings account. So put 10% in there. And then this is the hard part. Have conversations with your parents about money and property and what their plans were. My children asked me, what did I resent the most about my previous life existence?
Wow.
I said, I resent the most that my country didn't think it was important enough to teach me how money worked in America. They taught me how to balance a checkbook, but they didn't give me all those definitions and understandings of the systems that they really didn't want me to participate in. So when I was young, I made my decisions about how I was going to work based on my passion, not the lifestyle that I wanted for my family.
Yes.
And many of us, in striving to have the material goods, because, it wasn't social media, it wasn't called social media, it was called television. And you were supposed to get the new Chevrolet so you could drive to Malibu, so you could wear fashion clothes. They sold us a crock. So this is when we talk about generational wealth, we can't build it unless we have a conversation with the generation behind us.
Yes.
I'm in a situation now where I have cousins whose parents never missed a day of work. The father never missed a day of work in 30 years. The mother ran a laundry entrepreneurship out of her own home. They bought land, they built a house, they expanded a house, and they had 2 children. The youngest one just died recently intestate, which meant he had no will, no power of attorney, and left his 30-year-old son to have to figure out, because the house in the hometown is in probate because there's no will.
Wow.
So all of this that the grandparents did to create generational wealth got derailed because of that generation that couldn't hold the legacy. His sister is somewhere in New York where she didn't realize she's on the edge of dementia. And while she's traveled, she's lost every piece of identification. So right now, she's a non-person in the United States with a college degree and some training.
Yeah.
So just putting the thing in place as the generational keeper isn't enough. We've got to have these generational conversations.
Yes.
So that people understand where to pick it up, what kind of vest or belt you need to tie yourself up so you can carry that legacy. Because all that they poured in to make that happen for their children is just like a sieve. So now the third generation is without anything that his grandparents thought they were going to leave him. So, and that's not any blame or blame, but the reason why I want Alondra to speak on this is that can create enmity in families. It can create enmity between siblings. And then everybody's depressed, anxious, carrying burdens that they need to lay down. So since I've said that, I'm going to concede to the professional who untie the knot.
That's good. Thank you.
No, I absolutely agree with everything you said. I love that you mentioned the pay yourself first does not mean go shopping. Learning how to save, just like Kimberly shared, is so important. Like, it's necessary, even if it's $2, right? If you just keep putting $2 away, you will have a little pool of money ready for you. If something happens, if you are just out and somebody can't pay the food bill, you have money that you can pull from. So it is necessary for you to save. And like Mama O shared, talking to your parents, grandparents, understanding what's already in place. It is necessary, unfortunately, in this country to have some level of credit. That doesn't necessarily mean you have to open that credit card when they're on the campus offering free t-shirts for you to sign up for a credit card. I'm just throwing it out there. You don't have to get that credit card. Right. If you do, that's fine, but that is not your free check. That is somebody else's money, and they're going to want their money back with interest. So if you do get the credit card, that's fine. Or if your parents or a relative that you trust has a credit card, you can ask them if you can be a signer. They don't even have to give you a card, but that can start to build your credit. Okay, so there is a way for you to build credit without you going into more debt unnecessarily. If you had to take out student loans, you can get the loan. It's usually more than what you need for your classes. So as soon as you get it, take 10% of that amount and put it into a savings account that you do not have easy access to.
Yes.
That is starting to build a savings for you. I say do it at the beginning because you get really excited when you see that amount of money hit your account after you've paid for your classes and your books and your meal plan, and you might decide to go on a trip, or you might decide to get the new outfit. And it's fine to do that a little bit, but if you've already put some money in the savings account, then you made sure to take care of yourself for real and not just for today. Mm-hmm. So when we can talk to those previous generations, when we can understand it's not just about me. Yes, I want to make sure that I do well. One of the things my dad always tells me is everything that I'm doing for you, I want you to do more for your kids. Yeah. Because that's what his dad told him, right? So that is a generational legacy of trying and doing more. That includes our finances. So you should know what is laid in place. If you get some knowledge, if you do go on TikTok and you get an understanding, share that with your parents or your caregivers. Maybe there's something they don't know, right? There's a certain level of African-American history that we don't like to talk about death.
Yes.
Talk to your parents. Ask them, do you have a will? Do you know what you want? Did you write it down? Did you get it signed? You know, is this a legal document? It can't just be on the back of a church program.
Yes.
It needs to be a legal document so that the things that they've worked so hard to give you, you actually get to receive without having to go through probate court, which is expensive. Okay? Probate court is expensive.
Yes, it is.
So giving yourself an opportunity to understand what's waiting for you, make sure you can receive it, and then also setting yourself up to be able to provide for yourself and for your future so that we don't have to have the heaviness. You're already grieving. You don't want to also have to deal with legal stuff, right? You don't want to have to fight your sibling or cousin or whomever that person is. Just set the things up now to give yourself a chance.
That is good. That is good. Wow, we could go more. We could actually do another hour, but the time has come for us to wrap up. So let me ask you ladies quickly with 30 seconds, what words of wisdom, or let me just say this, finally, in just 30 seconds, what's one major takeaway that you would like the students to receive from this conversation that we had? 30 seconds. Anyone can go.
I would say networking. If you have a way to contact us or get our information, that would be the first thing I would say. Is everybody here would probably be more than willing to talk with you and help you. If you thought of something you wanted to discuss with us and reach out to us, I would say that would be my first thing to tell you to do, is try to talk to at least one of us, if not all of us, because I'm sure that we could all share something to help you along the way.
Okay. Alondra?
I would say to remember that you are enough and it is okay to ask for help.
Awesome. And we're going to go with Kimberly.
Know that you're a blessing and that you're here for a reason, and only you can stop that reason from happening. So I think that's it.
I love it. Mama O, let's have the final one.
Pick the school that offers you the best class size ratio, supplemental opportunities like internships and travel opportunities. Find a way to find support with people who are like-minded like you. And don't pick the school based on the team's sports records.
I love it. And I'll say, to add to that, excuses is the first cousin to a lie. Okay? So stay focused. All of that stuff that happened to you was a distraction. Get busy and go after it. You are worth it. Thank you, ladies. Thank each of you. You've done an incredible job. I love this conversation, and I hope that we've inspired these young ladies to keep going, keep moving, and be present. Blessings.